What's up, guys? So today we're continuing the series where I go through every single Warframe and give you a beginner steel path build. Keep in mind, this is not meant to be an end game build. It's not meant for end game content. It's meant for people who are just getting into steel path, whether you've taken a long break, whether it's your first time, whether you're struggling really bad. This is meant to help you get through that door. I'm trying to cover every single frame just so people that have certain specific favorites, they can play from there. I will try to show an end game version or tell you how to build off of it, but this is meant to give you the understanding of the frame, a simple build, and from there hopefully you will know how to build up upon that. And in the comments, people will drop their own builds if they want to. It's up to them, but keep in mind it's not meant for in-game content, so please don't say, hey, this build is bad, it's worse than my level 10,000 build. Okay, I'm going to try to avoid stuff like arcanes, prime mods, the helmet system, and certain synergies like companions and certain like hard to get weapons, just because I want it to be simple and guarantee that the stuff I mentioned is either really easy to obtain or everyone has. For example, like Prime Sure-Footed is relatively easy to obtain, but it's locked behind a login system. So someone who probably hasn't gotten it yet or chose the wrong one has to wait longer. It's probably not the best mod to mention in these guides, right? So please keep that in mind. If you do have certain stuff, feel free to use it. If I mention redirection and you have Prime redirection, by all means go for it and use it. All right. In today's video, we're going to talk about Atlas. All right, let's go take a look at Atlas. First, I'm gonna cover his abilities, and then we'll get into the build, and then from there I'll show you a little gameplay. So with his abilities, let's talk about his passive first. His passive makes you completely immune to knockdowns as long as you're on the ground. This is essentially a free Prime Sure-Footed, because I know that mod's a little difficult to get because it's locked behind a login window. So his passive, as long as you're on your 2 feet on the ground, you're not double jumping or whatever you're doing, you are immune to knockdowns, which is good to prevent those Xmas units that knock you down, heavy units that slam the ground, knock you down. So it's pretty good. I know knockdowns are really annoying. Next is his one. So his one is you do a little dash, you punch, and you get combo. The combo increases with each hit, and at max combo you do a damage multiplier, right? If you read this, this is each energy cost is reduced at each hit of landslide, so you can spam it and it costs less each time you do it, which is amazing because when you cast landslide, you're invulnerable to damage. So when you press your one, you take no damage for the duration of the dash, and every cast of landslide costs less energy. So spamming it makes you invulnerable, costs less energy, and does more damage. So we're going to focus on landslide for this beginner build. But again, when you play more, you can do multiple stuff because Atlas has some crazy things you can do. But pretty much that's landslide. You can see his punch, his first punch, second punch, and third punch have different AoE distances. So that's pretty good because you are going to be spamming it at least 3 times to get all 3 punches. And let's move on from landslide to his 2. So 2 is tectonics. We're not going to talk about this much today, but we'll go over real fast. His second ability is tectonics. So basically you summon a rock wall. You can activate the ability again to send the wall crashing forward. When the wall is attacked by enemies, it releases the area effect slash, and it's based on how much health it was lost. We're not talking about this today, but I'm sure you could, if you really want to, you can make a build from this, but that's not the main focus of today. Next up is his petrify. His third ability is petrify. Atlas hardened gaze will fossilize foes, increasing the damage they take, heal rumblers, and create petrified bulwarks. When shattered, petrified enemies drop healing rubble for Atlas. Okay, so what does his 3 do? So in a cone, you cast your ability, enemies will get turned to stone, they take increased damage from all sources, they heal your rumblers, which we'll talk about in a second, and they drop little stones. All right, next up is your 4. So your 4 is your rumblers. So summon 2 elemental stone brawlers to the melee. Summoning petrifies enemies in close proximity to Atlas. When finished, rumblers collapse into a pile of healing rubble. Boom. So you summon these 2 little guys, they run around doing damage. They're not that strong, but Atlas has a second passive essentially called Rubble. So petrified enemies and your rumblers mention it. When you petrify enemies and they die, they drop these little rocks that increase your stats, and I believe they also heal you, right? Boom. I think we covered every single ability, and I guess we'll talk about the build, and I'll showcase the build to you guys so you know the power of Atlas. So this is the build I have on Atlas currently. It's pretty simple. We have Vitality for health because he is a high armor Warframe from 500, and we have Steel Fiber to double our armor to 1000. So these 2 make him really good at health tanking. Health tanking is good enough in normal steel path. If you try to take health tank anything higher to like level cap, for example, you will struggle a lot, but in normal steel path is super reliable as long as you have a way to heal. Next up, we have Flow. Flow is to give us more more energy. Can never say no to more energy, especially if we're spamming our landslide. So having more energy helps a lot. Next up is Dreamer's Bond. I should have mentioned this one first, but you get this one for, like, pretty early in the game. It's just a free aura mod. You can put whatever you want on here, probably steel charge up here probably goes way better. But again, it doesn't matter what you put on here. This gives you health regen and energy regen, so it helps with the ability spam and it helps with the health tanking early on. Next up, we have stretch. The reason we have stretch on here is for two reasons. It increases your petrify range, so enemies further away get petrified to stone, and it also increases your landslide. So each punch of landslide has an AoE. Your first punch is a 4 meter, your second punch is a 6 meter, and your third punch is an 8 meter. Stretch basically turns that from 4, 6, 8 to 5.8, 8.7, and 11.6. More range means you can do more AoE. More AoE means you kill more enemies, and killing more enemies makes the mission a little more easy, right? Next up is streamline. Again, because we're spamming abilities, having a way to discount them helps a lot. We probably don't need this. We'll go over that in a second why we don't need this. But next up, we have intensify. Intensify increases the strength we do. 30 strength is not that good. We'll talk about ways to improve this, but for now, 30 strength, easy mod to get. I think everyone should get all these mods so far I mentioned pretty easily. And next, finally, well, not finally, but we have Hunter's Adrenaline. So what this does is whenever you take damage to your health, that damage, the health damage, the health loss, it gets converted into energy. This mod is obtained in, I believe, the Plains of Eidolon. Let me get 1 second to confirm it. So Hunter's Adrenaline does drop from the Plains of Eidolon, but it's only believed during the Ghoul Purge. A alternate mod you could put in that slot is Rage. It does the exact same thing, just 5% less of the damage gets converted to energy. Rage drops from Duviri circuits. I'm sure a lot of people done Duviri. If not, I do recommend you do it. Every week get a free Warframe and there's a chance to get Rage. If not, these are relatively cheap mods to get. And if you don't have either or you don't want to use them, there's tons of other options you can put in this to fill out the space. But it does help if you do have it. Finally, we'll talk about Rubble Heap. So Rubble Heap is an augment for Atlas, and it says when above 1400 rubble, right? So whenever you petrify enemies and then they die, they drop rubble. When you're at 1400, your landslide costs no energy, which is why I said earlier streamline is probably not the most useful one, but it helps you get to that rubble cost. And then you deal double the damage and you travel 2 times faster. So this makes your spamming your landslide ability way better. Streamline does help, and Rubble Heap benefits up until the point you max out your rubble. So let's go into a quick test and I show you the power of Atlas. Sorry, before we talk about Atlas's power, I forgot his landslide fists are modded separately. So let's talk about that first before we go into the combat. So what I have here is your stance mod. You cannot change on exalted weapons. So boom, that stays exactly how it is. Other things we have is shattering impact. So whenever you deal impact damage, you reduce armor. This is not necessary. I just have it on here just for funs, but it does reduce your enemy armor. So if you have it, throw it on. If not, you could throw in a range mod. If you have reach, you can throw reach in there if you would like. If not, it's fine. This gives you more crit damage. His crit damage is, I believe, 2, which is not bad. You go up to 3.8. And alongside these 2 mods, make the rest of the build pretty decent. So what Weeping Wounds does is for each stack of combo you get extra 40% status chance. At 12 times combo, it's 12 basically times 40. Same thing with Blood Rush, it's 12 times 40. So at max level, you get an insane amount of crit chance and an insane amount of status chance. This makes you proc impact and whatever elements you have on easier. And then crit chance and crit damage also, more damage. Next, we got Pressure Point for more damage, self-explanatory. Gladiator Rush, I believe, is also from bounties. Probably from Fortuna, or it's from an open world. If you don't have this, again, you don't have to use it. You could add in more elements. You can add in legit whatever else you feel like you want to throw in. The main ones, I believe, are the crit chance, crit damage, Weeping Wounds, and Blood Rush, and obviously Pressure Point. Next, we have Shocking Touch. This gives you electric damage. So with electric damage, when it does proc the status, it basically links up to other enemies and does a damage over time. So this gives you a little bit more AoE if you end up procking the status, which is nice. Again, this is up to you what elements you want to do. So if let's say you don't have Shattering Impact, you could throw in a heat mod. You can throw in a heat mod like this, and now you do radiation damage, which is like Shocking Touch and Molten Impact. You could throw in a cold mod, Northwind Shocking Touch. boom for magnetic. You can throw in, let's say, heat again with cold and make it blast. It's up to you. Maybe blast might be better. It's up to you what you feel is good for you. And finally, we have melee elementalist. So this does two things. One, it increases your heavy attack windup speed, but we're not doing heavy attacks with the fist, so irrelevant. The second thing is the status damage. You receive a 90% status damage increase, and it applies to like slash, heat, electric, toxin, blast, and gas, which is really good if you're doing electric or blast or whatever other damage that does DOTs. And if you don't have this, again, you could throw in any other mod, more elements. We could throw in a toxin mod. We could on toxin mod. We could throw in a cold electric mod. Up to you what you feel is worth. And this looks pretty solid. So it all depends what you're feeling. Let's leave it like this for now. And with the viral heats, just to show you like whatever damages you do, whatever mods you do put on for elementals, doesn't really matter. But let's go in and test the build, okay? All right, so we're going to test it with 20 level 185 steel path level corrupted heavy gunners, just to show like this could take you throughout the whole steel path. We're going to enable AI just so like you could see that even though we probably don't have much survivability, we can still survive these enemies. So let's simulate. So we're gonna cast your 3. Notice how they're all turned to stone, and you just hit 1. So right now we're not doing much damage, but we're building up this stack. So we're at 10 times, 12 times. So notice how they're dying pretty easy. And we are spamming a 1, and we do want to spam the 1. So let's farm up the rubble on the ground, because keep in mind our augment mod makes it so if we have enough rubble, we do double damage. All right, more rubble. Spawn more enemies. Keep in mind, in an actual steel path mission, enemies spawn way faster. So going back and forth to spawn more is not going to happen to you. So your tempo will be way better than what I'm doing right now. All right, so we're at max stacks, and let's see how much damage you do. So notice how I'm having no issue whatsoever taking care of these enemies, because one, we're invulnerable as we're spamming, and we're able to maintain a decent amount of energy, because once we get a rubble, our 1 becomes completely free, and it is amazing. We're doing insane amount of damage because we're ramping up our combo, and we're doing the damage vulnerability, and on top of that, if we have an AoE, it does even more, like electric or blast. But yeah, this is again super simple build. If you have any issues with obtaining any of these mods, you can leave it in the comments. I could try to help you know what a good alternative is, or maybe people in the comments will drop their builds and you can build off that. So how would you improve this, for example, right? If you're doing the helmet system, you could probably helmet your 2 or your 1 off for Wrathful Advance to give you more crit chance. That would help your landslide by a lot, because if you get an extra 300% crit chance and you're doing a 4.8 multiplier, you'll probably do like 16 times more damage, I believe, right? If we're doing arcanes, you can do influence. Influence works. You could do vortex or magnetic, or influence or electric. For Warframe arcanes, there's a ton of options. You could do battery for more energy and replace flow for more strength. You could replace intensify for a blind rage. You could replace stretch for overextended if you want more range. What else could you put on him? Arcane battery, I said. Guardian persistence gives you more survivability. You could run Avenger as an option. You could run some utility arcanes. You can run energize. The arcanes with him are pretty simple, just because once your rubble passive is fully stacked up, your 1 becomes free. So energy no longer becomes an issue, as long as like you don't get like 1 tapped or magnetic proc or what have you. There's pretty decent amount of like alternations you could do. As long as you have his augments for his passive augments and just spam 1, you should be fine regardless if you're doing like an end game level build. Let's put this back and let's go into a mission, and we'll call it an outro. But yep, hopefully this was a decent build for Atlas. Hopefully this allows you to get into Steel Path. Again, it's not meant for high level, it's meant just for entering Steel Path. If you're having issues getting any of these mods. Hopefully that helped you guys out. Again, this is not meant to be a super endgame build. It's meant for early steel path. Hopefully this helped. If you have any issues about the build, how to get certain items, or if it's not working, let me know in the comments and I'll try to help you out. If you guys have more information on Atlas you want to share with other new Atlas players, feel free to put that in the comments. I look forward to reading them. I'm sure other people who are learning about Atlas or love Atlas and want to learn more about them would love to see your comments too. Hopefully you enjoyed. Take care, and I'll leave you guys with some gameplay in Steel Path Survival, and take care. Bye.